The Riordanverse is a huge universe filled with different books, characters, and themes in every book series. Over the years, fans have made many thoughts and theories on the books, but some information can get pretty convoluted over time. In this video, I decided to gather 10 surprising misconceptions that some fans have. I'll be going through them and correcting them to what we have in canon today. So without further ado, let's get into it. Number 1. Percy and Annabeth are related because of their godly side. Now, this is a conspiracy that I see a lot of fans say, mainly because they only watch the Disney Plus show or the movies without reading the books, but I can't really blame them. Both the Disney Plus show and the movie set up Percy and Annabeth as a couple that fans get invested in. They then try to really analyze Percybeth and realize that they're technically cousins if you consider the godly side, and I'll explain where they're coming from. Percy's dad is the god deceased Poseidon. Poseidon is Zeus's brother, and Zeus's daughter is Athena, or Annabeth's mom. This creates a very weird family tree because technically Poseidon is Athena's uncle. This ultimately makes Percy and Annabeth second cousins if you consider their godly side, but Read Riordan has actually spoken about this. Rick explains how Percy and Annabeth are related in the godly side, but that gods don't have DNA, and that's why it's alright for them to date. Number 2. All demigods have ADHD and dyslexia. Although plenty of demigods in the Riordanverse have these two conditions, that's actually not the case for everyone. Some demigods like Frank Jean from the Heroes of Olympus have lactose intolerance instead of ADHD or dyslexia. Interestingly, Will Solus also doesn't have dyslexia, and this may be the same case for another demigod named Jason Grace. Jason was able to read a brochure in The Lost Hero without difficulty, so he may not be dyslexic either. Ultimately, ADHD and dyslexia are common traits, but not all demigods actually have them. Number 3. Gods can't die. This is a general thing that people believe simply because of the notion that he's a god. Like, obviously he can't die, and that's technically true because gods don't die. Their version of death is called fading. In the Riordanverse, gods are immortal, but they only live because of worship from humans, or, in better words from the Riordan Wiki, fading is caused, at least partially, by the diminishing of a god's realm or people abandoning their belief in them. Gods that are not well remembered or were never worshipped can also fade. Gods seem to be able to resist fading on some level by finding a will to survive. Also, once fading happens, they're gone permanently, and this is pretty much the equivalent of death to the gods. Number 4. Gods understand prophecies all the time. This is a big lie, and it kind of started when Hermes seemed to understand Luke's tragic fate better than anyone. Added with the fact that there's a god of prophecies, or Apollo, some people assume that that means that gods do understand prophecies better than mortals. Although gods do have some knowledge to some extent more than beings like demigods or mortals, they don't automatically understand prophecies. This was evident when Apollo, the literal god of prophecies that I mentioned earlier, didn't know what to do with the prophecy in the Titan's Curse and had to ask for Percy's help. Overall, some gods do understand the fates prophecies can give, but it's not that easy even for them. Number 5. Camp Haplets and Camp Jupiter's campers became close friends after the war against Gaia. After Gaia was defeated in the Blood of Olympus, the campers of both Camp Haplet and Camp Jupiter united and even bonded for days before the Romans had to leave for the Legion. They pretty much became allies after constant war between the Greeks and the Romans, and many readers assumed that Camp Haplet and Camp Jupiter became immediately close after this. However, this wasn't really the case. In the Hidden Oracle, we learned that the Greeks haven't met with the Romans in months because of a communication issue happening in the world. In the Tyrant's Tomb, we realized that this was caused by triumvirate holdings through using the god of silence Harpocrates. However, once Harpocrates sacrificed himself for the greater good, communication flowed better around the world. But until now, we're unsure if the camps reconnected immediately, but we do know that this eventually improved their relationship with one another. But this was after the communication issue was fixed, and not immediately after Gaia's defeat. Number 6. Leo Valdez is not smart and is often reckless or irresponsible. This is a common thing that I see online, especially with fanfiction, and it really annoys me because Leo is not dumb. In my previous video of sorting Riordanverse characters into Hogwarts houses, I even placed Leo in Ravenclaw because of how creative and intelligent he really is. I mean, we're talking about the same kid who could solve complex math at a young age, make machines without even thinking too deeply, repair an unfixable dragon multiple times, and not to mention lead the construction of an entire warship when he was just 15 within months. Leo was very resourceful, and yes, I do know that he can be careless sometimes, but he is very, very far away from the dumb version that people make him out to be. Leo is very smart in his own, and I think that deserves way more credit. Number 7. Annabeth is naturally mean. This misconception is common among fans of the movies and the show, as this is naturally Annabeth's first impressions of people. Like the Leo thing earlier, I would say that it's pretty common to see Annabeth as this no-nonsense, intimidating, and pretty mean person in fanfiction or other media just because of her usual demeanor to strangers. We all know that Annabeth isn't an open book. That's evident in almost every scene I can remember from her, but she isn't heartless. A lot of people are intimidated by her because she is kind of scary to talk to due to her intellect and wit. And it's true. She can be cold in the first meeting, but she slowly opens up to people who manage to win her trust. So this is an obvious misconception because Annabeth is actually kind once you get to understand and talk to her, but she isn't the type to let people in easily. It will take a while to like her, but once you do get close to her, she's actually very caring and compassionate to her loved ones. Number 8. Percy Jackson relies on Annabeth for intelligence. This is another thing that annoys me in fanfiction, and sometimes Rick adds this in bits of the Heroes of Olympus or the Trials of Apollo, probably because he thinks that a lot of fans think this way and therefore we would just vibe with it. However, this is far from the truth. Percy is not clueless, and he's actually very smart. He has amazing reflexes and instincts, especially in battle, and is definitely not as dumb as people make him out to be. Annabeth is a very smart character on her own, but Percy doesn't need to rely on her all the time for a quest. He's pretty street smart instead of book smart, so he definitely doesn't need someone like Annabeth to babysit him. Number 9. Percy is bisexual or queer. This is usually caused by headcanons or different interpretations fans have, and I'm not against that. I love headcanons because I find it interesting to see how fans understood the books, but some fans tend to think that their headcanons are actually canon or real to the story when they're not. Percy is canonically straight as confirmed by Read Riordan. Like, in Percy Jackson's Greek Gods, Percy makes a comment about not knowing how to describe Adonis because he doesn't look at dudes that way, which Rick concluded to reinforce that Percy is straight. That said, I do understand why some fans headcanon Percy as bisexual or queer, especially because of his close relationships with characters like Luke or Jason. Headcanons like these are a big part of what makes the fandom fun and creative, and I find it interesting to see how others interpret the characters in their own way. I just think it's important to remember the difference between headcanon and canon. While Percy is portrayed as straight in the official books, that doesn't mean that fans can't imagine or explore different aspects of his character through their own interpretations. Number 10. Percy is naturally happy or goofy. This is another misconception that I usually see in the fandom, because let's face it, Percy's classic sarcasm and humor is one of the most prominent parts about him if you read the books, because he can be funny without even meaning to be. I also noticed that Rick was thinking of the same thing when reading The Wrath of the Triple Goddess. Like, the humor and the jokes were over the top sometimes in that book, and I think it's because Rick noticed that a lot of us love the goofy and happy persona that Percy has a lot of times. But we have to remember that Percy isn't always happy-go-lucky who jokes about everything. He's also been through a lot of stuff that people tend to overlook. He almost lost his mother, was kicked out of school after school, and was attacked by monsters, almost died multiple times and believed he was going to die by 16, lost his memories, survived literal hell and 2 wars all before the age of 18. Percy has been through a lot, and he's not really happy or goofy most of the time because he's trying to stay alive. Although he has some goofy moments, he's not always the happy-go-lucky person people tend to show in fanfiction or other media. Percy just has a distinct sense of humor that he naturally has, even if he's not trying to be funny, and this makes people think that he's always happy. But he isn't. Percy feels a range of emotions throughout the Riordanverse, and it's not always positive, and that's what fans have to remember. And that's all the misconceptions on the Riordanverse. So how about you? What other misconceptions do you know? Let me know in the comments down below.